I'm sure you all recognize him from the hit TV series on the Discovery Channel for 8 years, Dirty Jobs. After that, he started the Skills Trade Foundation. Most recently, he's raised about, I think, $1.6 million to support education throughout America's schools. Mike?
Brian, thanks. Hey guys. Actually, it's 2.7 million, but let's not.
It just went up.
Now, you know what? We just announced today another tranche of, we call them work ethic scholarships. We partnered with individual trade schools all over the place. UTI is the most recent. That's out in the press right now. In general, first of all, pleasure to be up here on stage with you guys. I think I'm the only one of this quartet not currently or officially employed, but it's still great. I'm busier than I've ever been working with the foundation and with Caterpillar, focusing on the skills gap, focusing on alternative education, focusing on work ethic scholarships, and mostly a kind of PR campaign for hard work. That's really what brought us together in the first place. Back in 2008, just as the recession was really starting to take hold, and just as words like infrastructure and skills gap were beginning to appear in the headlines, along with unemployment, I was seeing something really curious on Dirty Jobs. Everywhere I went, I was seeing help wanted signs. And it just seemed odd, you know, given the fact that the headlines were what they were, to see so much opportunity. Dirty Jobs shot in every single state, all 50. We did 300 altogether. And no matter where I went, I heard the same story over and over and over again from employers, how difficult it was to find people who were, A, willing to learn a new skill, retrain, retool, show up early, stay late. It just seemed to be, I know it's always been a challenge, but to hear it so many different times in so many different places from so many different people, it really just got me thinking that maybe something was disconnected, you know, fundamentally. So that's how the PR campaign for Hard Work started. We called it MicroWorks. It was supposed to be MICRO, but there was a copyright issue, so it's my name, MicroWorks. And we started talking. In the same way Dirty Jobs focused on people who very rarely get a spotlight shown on them, we started talking about the jobs themselves that were often overlooked. And we started to look at the link between the jobs that were available and the relationship the country had with the education that was required to get that job, and we started to see even more disconnects. So the whole notion of alternative education being this kind of subordinate or vocational consolation prize compared to a four-year degree and other forms of knowledge, it really struck us as something that needed to be talked about. So to make a very long story short, MicroWorks evolved out of Dirty Jobs back in 2008, and we went looking for partners. And we were looking for organizations, nonprofits, we were looking for companies, big and small. And I had a wish list, and somewhere near the top was Caterpillar. And by somewhere near the top, I mean right at the very top. And so we flew down to Peoria and met these guys, and we've been talking ever since and doing a lot of different things in a lot of different ways to continue to try and shine a light on this whole issue of closing the skills gap and getting people excited about jobs that actually exist. And there's just no better example of a company that I know of than these guys. The final Dirty Job that we did about a year and a half ago, we were up in Dickinson, North Dakota. We were just talking about this in the back. A kid named Jake walked up to me. I was putting up a cell phone tower with my crew. It was totally unrelated, but there was a piece of heavy equipment that needed working on, and the guy came over to work on it. He used to work for Caterpillar up there, but he basically went freelance, and I asked him why. And he said, because I can work whenever I want. I'm working 40 to 60 hours a week. I'm making, well, I don't want to talk out of school, but well into the 6 figures. I'm expecting my 2nd kid. I've been married 4 years. I have no debt, and I just paid my house off. And I'm like, you know, that kid should be on a poster. People should be talking about these stories. So this relationship with Caterpillar gives me a chance to tell those stories. It gives us a chance to connect those dots. The results we've seen, both incrementally, serendipitously, and accidentally over the last couple of years have been extraordinary. Some good things also happen when we try things on purpose, but the reality is just being in business with the right partners and keeping your ears open has given me a chance to talk about the skills gap, talk about opportunities at Caterpillar and elsewhere in a way that I never would have been able to do before. So every year we try and do something a little different. This year, somebody in CAT jokingly said, hey, you should write a book. And I said, okay, I'll write a book about this. Will you use it in the campaign? And they said, well, if you want us to use it in this whole tech recruitment campaign, we're going to need it in like a week. So it's a 1-page book. It's called Profoundly Disconnected. And it's a summation in 1 paragraph of every single thing I learned on dirty jobs, distilled into the one big, giant, important lesson. I don't want to give it away, you'll have to read it for yourself, but it's only a paragraph, so it shouldn't take long. There are some other things in the book, including an introduction and a preface. There's a foreword, there's an afterword, there's an appendix, a dedication page. It actually really does look like a book. Brian, would you mind? It's shocking for a 1-page book. Look, it actually has pages with writing and everything in it. So CAT's been so cool to do this. They allowed it to get published quickly. We printed 5,000 copies. The money all goes back into the MicroWorks Foundation, and that money is used for work ethic scholarships, as well as advocacy and promotion for the trades. That's why I'm on the stage. It's an honor to be with you guys. It's great to be here with you too. And I heard there was a rumor of questions, so if there are any, why don't we do that?
That's true. We'll do a question and answer for a little while now. What we'd like to do with a large group is if you raise your hand, we'll pass the microphone around to you, get it to you, and then we'll answer it by the right person.
Well, my question has to do with vets returning from overseas, and the tough road they have for getting jobs, and what the Micro Foundation might have for them.
Thanks, that's a great question. I live in San Francisco, and in that town is the Marine Memorial. It's a big operation downtown, and I've become friendly with a couple of retired generals, one whose name is Matt Caulfield. And Matt helped set up an organization called Helmets to Hard Hats a few years ago. And we're looking for new ways to kind of build on that, because to your point, the men and women who are coming back, it's almost scandalous, the unemployment rates. They call them RSS, recently separated servicemen and women. And historically, those rates have really been high. At MicroWorks, we obviously talk about that a lot, because most solutions start with some kind of a conversation, but we're actively looking for ways to encourage all companies to build what we call it a vet-friendly on-ramp. You know, so many of these guys they already have the training, and they certainly have the work ethic. And so getting those men and women hooked up with the right job it's important, and not enough people talk about it. So it's a big deal for us, and I know it's important to you guys too.
Mike, we often hear from people in the construction industry that young people coming into the workforce are, they're interested in computers and things like that, but that they're not interested in construction-related, equipment-related fields. And I wonder if you find that to be true.
Yes and no. You know, I mean, I'm a little biased, because on dirty jobs, there was so much joy on the show, and that's the thing. Dirty Jobs probably worked better as a PR campaign than any other show I've seen, for the simple reason that when you saw the work portrayed, especially the construction work, where you would expect to see drudgery, you almost always saw humor. And like one of the great secrets, I think, or one of the great misconceptions that surprise the average citizen is how much fun people have on the work site in this business. I've never had so much fun on Dirty Jobs working with guys who do either heavy equipment repair, construction, all that stuff. They, and I don't know why exactly, although I suspect it has something to do with a feeling of completion. You know, the guys in construction, men and women in construction, they get constant feedback all day long. They always know how they're doing, you know, and they have tangible examples around them all of the time, you know, reminding them of that. So the people that I met on the show were great advocates for the trades. The disconnect, I think, happens really at a very early age, and this is something that's really important that we try and focus on with guidance counselors. There is this tendency to take the kinds of jobs you're talking about, and it would be okay if they ignored them. You know, that's okay, at least you have a fighting chance. What makes this crazy is when they use these kinds of jobs as cautionary tales. So, look, if you don't go get a degree over here, if you don't take this particular path, you're liable to wind up, you know, over at the dealership. Well, that's why I tell stories about this kid, Jake, in Dickinson, North Dakota, because, yeah, you could wind up over there making $160,000 a year, working whenever you feel like it, paying your house off. So, most of it's a confusion. People just don't understand where the opportunities are. They don't draw a clean, bright line between this, Think Big, for instance. I mean, it's such an amazing program. You don't have to go into debt to get the training, to take the jobs that actually exist. So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of confusion around it, a lot of cognitive dissonance around it, and I think the best we can do is keep talking about it until people get the message.